Have you ever woken up with the strangest feeling that something fundamental about your world had shifted overnight? Maybe your favourite childhood movie had a slightly different title than you remembered. Or perhaps you could swear that a landmark in your town had always been in a different location. What if I told you that according to some interpretations of quantum mechanics, you might actually be experiencing echoes from parallel versions of yourself living in alternate realities? Tonight, we're going to explore the fascinating possibility that consciousness itself might be quantum mechanical in nature, and that every moment of your existence you could be unconsciously navigating between multiple parallel worlds. Welcome back to another gentle journey through the mysteries of science and consciousness. I'm your host, and tonight we're diving into one of the most mind-bending concepts at the intersection of quantum physics and human experience. We'll be exploring the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, the strange phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect, and the tantalizing possibility that your consciousness might be far more quantum than classical physics would suggest. Before we begin this exploration, find yourself in a comfortable position. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders relax. Tonight's journey will take us through some of the most profound questions about the nature of reality itself, so there's no need to grasp every detail with your analytical mind. Instead, let these ideas wash over you like gentle waves, each one adding to a deeper understanding of the mysterious quantum dance that might be happening within your very consciousness. In 1957, a young physicist named Hugh Everett III proposed something that would forever change how we think about reality. His doctoral thesis introduced what we now call the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, and it suggested something absolutely extraordinary. According to this interpretation, every time a quantum event occurs anywhere in the universe, reality splits into multiple parallel branches, each representing a different possible outcome. Now, this isn't science fiction. This is a legitimate interpretation of quantum mechanics that has gained significant support among physicists and cosmologists in recent decades. The mathematics behind it is elegant, and unlike some other interpretations of quantum mechanics, it doesn't require any additional assumptions about wave function collapse or hidden variables. Imagine, if you will, that you're standing at a crossroads. In classical physics, you would choose one path and continue along it, leaving the other paths unexplored. But in the many worlds interpretation, you actually take all paths simultaneously. Your consciousness follows one particular branch, but other versions of you explore every other possibility in parallel universes that are just as real as this one. The scale of this branching is almost incomprehensible. Every quantum event, from the decay of a radioactive atom to the firing of neurons in your brain, potentially creates new parallel worlds. As physicist David Deutsch puts it, the number of parallel universes grows exponentially with each passing moment. We're not talking about a few alternate realities here and there. We're talking about an infinite, ever-expanding multiverse, where every possibility that can exist does exist. But here's where it gets particularly interesting for our exploration tonight. If consciousness itself operates according to quantum principles, which some interpretations suggest it might, then your awareness could theoretically be influenced by or even connected to these parallel versions of yourself. Take a moment to consider what this might mean. Right now, as you listen to these words, there could be countless other versions of you in parallel realities, making slightly different choices, experiencing slightly different outcomes. In one reality, you might have chosen tea instead of coffee this morning. In another, you might have taken a different route to work. In yet another, you might have never been born at all, and someone else entirely is listening to this exploration of parallel worlds. Recent research by physicist Philip Strasberg and his colleagues at the Autonomous University of Barcelona has provided new computational evidence supporting the many worlds interpretation. Their simulations show that on large scales, a robust reality with classical features can emerge from quantum systems regardless of their detailed microstructure. This suggests that the classical world we experience might indeed be just one branch of a vast quantum multiverse. Now let's turn our attention to a phenomenon that has captured the imagination of millions of people around the world. It's called the Mandela Effect, named after the collective false memory many people share about Nelson Mandela's death. Thousands of individuals distinctly remember news reports of Mandela dying in prison during the 1980s, complete with vivid memories of his funeral and the riots that followed. Yet Mandela actually lived until 2013, becoming president of South Africa in 1994. This isn't simply a case of one or two people misremembering historical events. The Mandela Effect involves large groups of people sharing identical false memories about everything from movie quotes to corporate logos to geographical locations. People remember the children's book series as the Berenstain Bears, when it was actually the Berenstain Bears. They recall a movie called Shazam, starring comedian Sinbad, though no such movie was ever made. They remember the Monopoly man having a monocle, though he never did. The conventional explanation, of course, is that human memory is simply unreliable. Our brains are constantly reconstructing memories rather than playing them back like video recordings, and these reconstructions can become distorted over time. Schema-driven errors fill in gaps with what we expect to remember rather than what actually happened. But some researchers and theorists have proposed a more intriguing possibility. What if the Mandela Effect isn't just about faulty memory? What if it's actually evidence of something far more profound happening at the quantum level of reality? Quantum physicist Cynthia Sue Larson suggests that these collective false memories might be the result of what she calls reality shifts. According to her interpretation, memories from parallel timelines might occasionally bleed through into our current reality. In essence, people experiencing the Mandela Effect might be remembering events that actually did happen, just not in this particular branch of the multiverse. This remains a highly speculative idea, not a proven scientific fact. There's no scientific consensus that supports the notion that memories can transfer between parallel universes. However, the phenomenon does raise fascinating questions about the nature of consciousness, memory, and reality itself. Consider this for a moment. If consciousness does operate according to quantum principles, and if parallel worlds do exist, as the many worlds interpretation suggests, then it's at least theoretically possible that some form of quantum entanglement or information transfer could occur between different branches of reality. Your consciousness might occasionally pick up subtle signals or impressions from alternate versions of yourself living in slightly different worlds. As you reflect on your own memories, you might notice moments when you felt absolutely certain about something that turned out to be different from what others remembered. These moments of confusion, these small discrepancies between your memory and consensus reality, might be more significant than you originally thought. To understand how consciousness might be switching between parallel realities, we need to explore one of the most controversial areas in modern science: the relationship between consciousness and quantum mechanics. This intersection has fascinated researchers for decades. though it remains highly speculative and contested within the scientific community. The observer effect in quantum mechanics shows us that the act of measurement appears to influence quantum systems. Before measurement, quantum particles exist in what physicists call superposition, occupying all possible states simultaneously. But the moment we observe or measure the system, this superposition collapses into a single, definite state. Now, some interpretations suggest that consciousness itself might play a role in this process. The idea is that consciousness might be a quantum phenomenon, operating according to the same strange rules that govern subatomic particles. If this were true, then your awareness might not be confined to a single classical reality, but could instead exist in a quantum superposition across multiple parallel worlds. Recent research has provided some intriguing evidence that consciousness might indeed have quantum properties. Studies of the brain during near-death experiences have revealed patterns of neural activity that persist even after cardiac arrest, suggesting that consciousness might transcend the purely classical boundaries we typically associate with neural networks. Physicist Stuart Hameroff and anesthesiologist Roger Penrose have proposed that consciousness arises from quantum processes occurring within microtubules in brain cells. While this theory remains controversial and unproven, it suggests that the boundary between classical and quantum reality might be far more porous than we previously imagined, especially when it comes to consciousness. If consciousness does operate according to quantum principles, then it might be subject to the same kind of parallel branching described by the many worlds interpretation. This could mean that your awareness, rather than being confined to a single timeline, might actually be experiencing multiple realities simultaneously, with only one branch rising to the level of conscious awareness at any given moment. Think about the nature of dreams for a moment. In dreams, the normal rules of space and time often don't apply. You can be in multiple places at once, interact with people who shouldn't be there, and experience events that feel completely real despite their logical impossibility. Some researchers speculate that dreams might represent moments when consciousness gains access to alternate quantum states or parallel realities that are normally filtered out by our waking awareness. This is, of course, highly speculative territory. There's no scientific consensus that consciousness operates according to quantum principles, and the mechanisms by which awareness might switch between parallel realities remain purely theoretical. However, the questions these ideas raise about the nature of consciousness and reality are profound and worthy of contemplation. As you sit here listening to these ideas, take a moment to notice the quality of your awareness itself. Notice how your consciousness seems to flow from one moment to the next, how thoughts arise and disappear, how your sense of self remains constant even as everything around you changes. This continuity of consciousness, this sense of being a unified observer experiencing a coherent reality, might be far more mysterious and quantum mechanical than classical physics would suggest. One of the most mind-bending implications of the many worlds interpretation involves a concept known as quantum immortality. This idea, while remaining purely theoretical and unproven, suggests that consciousness might persist by automatically shifting to parallel realities where death is avoided. The theory works like this. In any situation where you might die, quantum mechanics suggests that there are also parallel branches where you survive, perhaps by the narrowest of margins. According to some interpretations, your consciousness would automatically continue in the branch where survival occurs, while other branches where you didn't survive would continue without your awareness. Hugh Everett III, the original proposer of the many worlds interpretation, reportedly believed that his theory guaranteed him a form of immortality. He argued that consciousness would always follow paths that didn't lead to death, effectively allowing awareness to persist indefinitely across the multiverse. This concept has profound implications for how we understand personal identity and the continuity of experience. If quantum immortality were real, then every near miss you've experienced, every close call that could have ended differently, might actually represent moments when your consciousness shifted from a reality where you died to one where you survived. People sometimes report strange experiences that seem to align with this idea. They describe accidents where they should have died but mysteriously survived, often with the feeling that reality itself had somehow shifted around them. They wake up in hospital beds with no memory of how they got there, or find themselves unharmed after what should have been fatal encounters. Now, it's important to emphasize that quantum immortality remains a highly speculative concept with no empirical evidence to support it. The theory doesn't address the biological processes of aging, disease, or decay, and there's no scientific consensus that consciousness can transfer between parallel universes. Many physicists argue that it's impossible to travel from one universe to another in the many worlds interpretation. However, these ideas do raise fascinating questions about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to physical reality. If awareness is indeed quantum mechanical in nature, then the boundaries between life and death, between this reality and alternate ones, might be far more fluid than our classical understanding suggests. As you contemplate these possibilities, you might reflect on moments in your own life when things could have gone very differently. Those split-second decisions, those narrow escapes, those times when luck seemed to intervene at just the right moment. While there's no scientific proof that consciousness switches between realities, the experience of living through such moments can feel remarkably like stepping from one world into another. Take a deep breath and let these ideas settle into your awareness. Whether or not quantum immortality is real, whether or not consciousness truly switches between parallel realities, the mere possibility invites us to consider the precious and mysterious nature of our continued existence in this particular branch of space and time. As we drift deeper into this exploration, let's examine what modern science has discovered about the mechanisms that might allow consciousness to navigate between parallel worlds. The research emerging from laboratories around the world is painting a picture that's both more subtle and more extraordinary than science fiction might suggest. In 2024, researchers at the Autonomous University of Barcelona made a remarkable discovery while studying quantum decoherence. They found that consciousness might have natural mechanisms to resist the process that normally destroys quantum effects in warm, noisy environments like the human brain. This resistance, they suggest, could extend quantum coherence lifetimes far beyond what classical physics would predict. The mathematics behind this discovery are elegant yet startling. If consciousness possesses what scientists call a quantum coupling coefficient, strong enough to enhance coherence by approximately 10 billion times, this would extend quantum effects to timescales that match exactly how long it takes neurons to fire and process information. It's as if consciousness and quantum mechanics are dancing to the same rhythm, synchronized across scales from the subatomic to the experiential. Dr. Philip Strasberg's team has identified specific mechanisms within neural structures that might make this possible. They've observed ordered water shells around tubulin proteins in microtubules, creating what appears to be a natural quantum isolation chamber within each cell. These structures seem to shield quantum states from the thermal chaos that normally destroys delicate quantum effects within milliseconds. What does this mean for your everyday experience? Imagine that your consciousness isn't just observing reality from a single vantage point, but is actually sampling from multiple quantum states simultaneously. Most of this quantum information processing happens below the threshold of awareness, but occasionally fragments might surface into conscious experience. This could explain those moments of profound déjà vu, when you feel absolutely certain you've experienced something before despite knowing it's impossible. It might account for those split-second intuitions that prove remarkably accurate, or those dreams that seem to contain information you couldn't have known through normal means. Take a gentle breath here and notice how your awareness feels in this moment. Is there a quality to consciousness itself that seems to transcend the boundaries of your physical body? Some people describe awareness as feeling more spacious than the brain that supposedly contains it, as if consciousness extends into dimensions that classical physics doesn't recognize. Recent studies of near-death experiences have provided additional evidence that consciousness might indeed transcend classical boundaries. Dr. Sam Parnia's research team has documented cases where brain activity associated with heightened consciousness continues for up to an hour after cardiac arrest. Patients report accessing what they describe as new dimensions of reality, experiencing memories, thoughts, and perspectives that seem to exist outside the normal constraints of space and time. One particularly intriguing case involved a patient who accurately described conversations taking place in distant rooms of the hospital while clinically dead. Another reported experiencing their entire life history simultaneously, as if past, present, and future existed as a single, accessible landscape, rather than a linear progression of moments. These experiences often include descriptions that sound remarkably similar to accessing alternate dimensions or realities. Patients speak of spatial relations breaking down, of moving through environments where normal geometry doesn't apply, of encountering multiple versions of familiar people and places. While conventional neuroscience attributes these experiences to oxygen deprivation or dying brain processes, some researchers are beginning to consider more exotic possibilities. What if consciousness, at the moment of clinical death, gains access to quantum states that are normally filtered out by the classical brain? Dr. Bernard Carr, a cosmologist at Queen Mary University of London, has proposed that consciousness might exist in what he calls compactified extra dimensions. In his model, individual consciousness is just one level in a hierarchy that includes terrestrial, galactic, and cosmic levels of awareness. These levels, he suggests, might be linked through quantum mechanical processes that operate outside our normal three-dimensional experience. As you contemplate these ideas, you might reflect on your own moments of expanded awareness. Perhaps during meditation, or in those twilight moments between waking and sleeping, or during times of intense creativity or emotional connection. In these states, does your sense of self feel contained within your physical boundaries, or does it seem to extend into something larger, more connected, more quantum in nature? While consciousness might naturally possess quantum properties, human technology is beginning to explore ways of deliberately accessing alternate states of reality. The results of these experiments are providing fascinating insights into the nature of consciousness and its relationship to parallel worlds. Researchers at the University of Barcelona have developed sophisticated virtual reality systems designed to simulate death and rebirth experiences. Participants enter shared virtual environments where they experience complete life cycles, including their own death and the continuation of the world without them. What they've discovered is that these simulated experiences can produce profound shifts in consciousness that persist long after the virtual reality headset is removed. Participants report that the experience of dying and observing their virtual world continue without them fundamentally changes their relationship to identity and reality. Many describe feeling as if they've actually visited an alternate dimension, one where the normal rules of existence don't apply. Some claim to retain memories from their virtual experiences that feel more real than memories from their actual lives. The implications of this research extend far beyond virtual reality entertainment. If consciousness can be so profoundly affected by simulated experiences of alternate realities, what does this tell us about the nature of reality itself? Are the boundaries between real and simulated experience more porous than we assumed? Meanwhile, quantum computing research is pushing the boundaries of what's computationally possible in ways that might have unexpected effects on reality itself. Companies like D-Wave Systems have developed quantum computers that can process certain calculations thousands of times faster than classical computers. While these machines are designed for optimization problems, some researchers have speculated about their potential effects on the quantum fabric of reality. The theory, while highly speculative, suggests that the intense quantum processing power of these machines might create ripples in the quantum field that could influence parallel realities. As quantum computers become more powerful and more numerous, some theorists wonder whether they might begin to affect the probabilities governing which branch of the multiverse we experience. There's no scientific evidence supporting these ideas, and most physicists consider them purely speculative. However, the rapid advancement of quantum technology is opening up possibilities that were purely theoretical just a few decades ago. As we develop machines capable of manipulating quantum states on larger scales, we might inadvertently discover new ways that consciousness and technology can interact with the fundamental structure of reality. The Large Hadron Collider at CERN has also attracted attention from those interested in parallel realities. This massive particle accelerator creates conditions that existed fractions of a second after the Big Bang, potentially accessing energy states that could theoretically influence the branching of parallel worlds. Again, there's no scientific evidence that CERN's experiments affect parallel realities, but the scale and intensity of the energy involved does represent humanity's first attempts to manipulate matter at truly cosmic scales. As you consider these technological frontiers, you might wonder about the tools already available within your own consciousness. Meditation practitioners have long reported experiences that sound remarkably similar to accessing alternate states of reality. Through focused attention and specific breathing techniques, meditators describe entering states where the boundaries between self and environment dissolve, where time seems to flow differently, and where insights arise that seem to come from beyond ordinary consciousness. If you enjoy drifting through these explorations without interruption, members get every episode 48 hours early, completely ad-free. You can join them whenever you feel ready. For now, let's continue our journey into the mysteries of consciousness and parallel worlds. Over the years, researchers have collected thousands of personal accounts from individuals who believe they've experienced spontaneous shifts between parallel realities. While these stories can't be scientifically verified, the consistency of certain details across unrelated accounts suggests patterns worth considering. Sarah, a nurse from Portland, describes waking up one morning to find that her apartment had subtly changed. The kitchen layout was different. Her cat had markings she'd never noticed before, and her neighbour claimed they'd been friends for years, despite Sarah having no memory of meeting them. Most unsettling of all, Sarah discovered she had a small scar on her hand that she couldn't account for. In this new reality, her sister explained that Sarah had gotten the scar in a childhood accident that Sarah distinctly remembered never happening. Michael, an engineer from Chicago, reports a more dramatic experience. He was driving home from work when his car skidded on black ice, spinning directly toward an oncoming truck. He remembers the impact, the sensation of the airbag deploying, and then waking up in his bed the next morning. When he checked his car, there was no damage. The weather report showed no ice the previous evening. His route to work didn't even include the stretch of road where he remembered the accident occurring. These accounts typically share several common elements. The individuals involved are absolutely certain of their memories, despite evidence that contradicts them. They often report feeling disoriented for days or weeks afterward, as if they're living in a world that's almost right but not quite. And frequently, they describe a sense that they should have died in their original reality, as if their consciousness somehow shifted to a timeline where they survived. Dr. Cynthia Sue Larson, who studies what she terms reality shifts, has documented hundreds of similar cases. Her research suggests that these experiences often occur during moments of high stress, intense emotion, or altered states of consciousness. She theorizes that extreme circumstances might temporarily destabilize the quantum processes that normally keep consciousness locked to a single timeline. While conventional psychology would attribute these experiences to false memories, dissociation, or other known phenomena, some researchers are beginning to take a more open-minded approach. Dr. Larson points out that if parallel realities do exist, as quantum mechanics suggests, then we should expect to occasionally find evidence of them bleeding through into our experience. The challenge, of course, is distinguishing between genuine reality shifts and the well-documented ways that human memory can be unreliable. Our brains are constantly reconstructing rather than simply replaying memories, and these reconstructions can be influenced by suggestion, expectation, and wishful thinking. However, some cases are harder to explain through conventional psychology alone. There are accounts of entire families sharing memories of events that apparently never happened in their current reality. There are instances where physical evidence seems to contradict everyone's recollection of past events. And there are cases where individuals accurately predict specific changes to their environment before those changes become apparent to others. As you reflect on your own life, you might notice moments that felt like discontinuities in your personal timeline. Perhaps you've had experiences where you were absolutely certain about a fact or memory, only to discover that everyone else remembered things differently. Or maybe you've had dreams that felt more real than waking life, leaving you disoriented about which version of events actually occurred. These moments of uncertainty, these small tears in the fabric of consistent experience, might be more significant than we typically assume. In a quantum universe where consciousness potentially operates across multiple realities, such experiences might represent brief glimpses behind the curtain of ordinary perception. To understand how consciousness might switch between parallel realities, we need to examine the quantum nature of time itself. In classical physics, time flows like a river, carrying us steadily from past to future. But quantum mechanics reveals a far stranger picture, one where the relationship between consciousness, memory, and time becomes fluid and multidimensional. Recent research in quantum physics has shown that time perception can vary dramatically depending on the quantum state of the observer. During near-death experiences, for instance, individuals often report living through their entire life in what classical time measures as seconds or minutes. This suggests that consciousness might have access to dimensions of time that are normally inaccessible to ordinary awareness. Dr. Bernard Carr's work on consciousness and cosmology proposes that human awareness might not be confined to individual experience at all. He suggests that consciousness exists in a hierarchy of compactified extra dimensions, with individual awareness connected to terrestrial, galactic, and cosmic levels of consciousness. If this model is correct, then your personal memories might actually be part of a vast, interconnected web of experience that spans multiple realities and timelines. This idea finds unexpected support in the phenomenon of inherited memory, where individuals seem to possess detailed knowledge of events they never personally experienced. Some people report vivid memories of historical events they couldn't have witnessed, or detailed knowledge of places they've never visited. While conventional psychology attributes these to false memories or cryptomnesia, some researchers wonder whether consciousness might occasionally access memories from alternate versions of themselves or from the broader quantum field of information. The relationship between memory formation and quantum mechanics becomes particularly intriguing when we consider how memories are actually stored in the brain. Rather than being filed away like books in a library, memories appear to be distributed across networks of neurons in patterns that can be influenced by quantum effects. Each time you remember something, you're actually reconstructing that memory from quantum information stored throughout your neural network. This reconstruction process means that your memories are not static recordings, but dynamic, living patterns that can be influenced by your current quantum state. If consciousness does operate according to quantum principles, then accessing a memory might occasionally involve sampling from parallel realities where slightly different versions of that memory exist. Consider the strange phenomenon of memory bleeding, where people report sudden access to detailed information they couldn't have learned through normal means. A person might suddenly know how to play a musical instrument they've never studied, or possess detailed knowledge of a foreign language they've never encountered. While these cases are rare and often disputed, they raise fascinating questions about the boundaries of individual consciousness and memory. Take a moment here to reflect on the nature of your own memories. Notice how some memories feel crystal clear, while others seem hazy or uncertain. Pay attention to those memories that feel somehow different from the rest, the ones that carry an unusual emotional charge or seem to exist outside your normal timeline of experience. These might be glimpses of information from parallel versions of yourself living in slightly different realities. The quantum field theory of memory suggests that all possible memories exist simultaneously in a superposition state, with consciousness selecting which version to experience based on its current quantum configuration. This would mean that your personal history isn't fixed but fluid, constantly being reconstructed based on which branch of the multiverse your consciousness currently inhabits. This has profound implications for how we understand personal identity and the continuity of self. If your memories are actually being selected from multiple possible histories, then the person you think you are might be a constantly shifting composite of parallel selves, each contributing fragments to your overall sense of identity. As you contemplate these possibilities, you might notice how your sense of self feels both continuous and discontinuous at the same time. There's an underlying awareness that seems to persist throughout all your experiences, yet the specific content of your thoughts, memories, and perceptions is constantly changing. This tension between continuity and change might reflect the quantum nature of consciousness as it navigates between parallel realities. One of the most profound implications of quantum mechanics is the observer effect, the discovery that the act of observation appears to influence quantum systems. In the microscopic world, particles exist in superposition until they're measured, at which point they collapse into a single, definite state. If consciousness operates according to quantum principles, then your personal act of observation might be continuously shaping which version of reality you experience. This suggests that you're not just a passive observer of a predetermined universe, but an active participant in selecting which branch of the multiverse becomes your experienced reality. Every moment of attention, every decision to focus on one possibility rather than another, might be collapsing quantum superpositions and determining which parallel world you inhabit. The implications of this are both empowering and humbling. If your consciousness is indeed influencing which reality you experience, then you bear some responsibility for the world you find yourself in. Yet the process appears to be largely unconscious and automatic, operating according to quantum principles that are far more subtle than simple wishful thinking or positive visualization. Research into the quantum biology of consciousness has revealed that the brain maintains coherent quantum states through remarkably sophisticated mechanisms. Microtubules within neurons appear to create quantum isolation chambers that protect delicate quantum effects from the thermal chaos that would normally destroy them within nanoseconds. These structures might serve as biological quantum computers, processing information according to the strange rules of quantum mechanics. If this is true, then every thought, every memory, every moment of conscious experience might involve quantum computations that span multiple parallel realities. Your brain might be constantly sampling from alternate versions of yourself, integrating information from multiple timelines to create your unified sense of experience. This quantum view of consciousness helps explain some of the stranger aspects of human psychology. Why do some decisions feel inevitable, while others seem to emerge from genuine free will? Why do creative insights often arise spontaneously, from nowhere? Why does consciousness sometimes seem to know things that the rational mind has never learned? If consciousness operates across multiple realities, then these phenomena might reflect moments when information from parallel selves breaks through into your current experience. A creative insight might be your consciousness accessing a solution that an alternate version of yourself has already discovered. A sense of inevitability might arise when most parallel versions of yourself are making the same choice. The quantum nature of consciousness also suggests new ways of understanding intuition and synchronicity. Those moments when you inexplicably know something is about to happen, or when meaningful coincidences seem to guide your path, might represent instances when your consciousness briefly aligns with broader patterns in the quantum field. As you sit with these ideas, pay attention to the quality of your awareness itself. Notice how consciousness feels like more than just the sum of your thoughts and sensations. There's something about awareness that seems to transcend the physical boundaries of your brain, as if consciousness extends into dimensions that classical physics doesn't recognize. This expanded sense of awareness might be your consciousness naturally accessing its quantum nature, briefly touching the vast network of parallel selves and alternate realities that exist beyond the narrow focus of ordinary perception. In moments of deep meditation, creative flow, or profound connection with others, you might be experiencing glimpses of your true quantum nature as a consciousness that exists across multiple realities simultaneously. The observer effect in quantum mechanics tells us that consciousness and reality are intimately connected in ways that classical physics never imagined. If this connection extends to the level of personal experience, then your life might be far more quantum mechanical than you ever suspected, with your consciousness continuously navigating between parallel worlds as it creates the reality you call your own. As we continue our gentle exploration through the quantum landscape of consciousness, let's turn our attention to one of the most mysterious aspects of human experience: dreams. Each night, as your conscious awareness dims, something extraordinary happens. Your mind enters a realm where the normal rules of space, time, and causality seem to dissolve, replaced by a fluid reality that operates according to its own strange logic. From a quantum perspective, this nightly journey into the dream state might be far more significant than we've traditionally understood. While conventional neuroscience views dreams as simply the brain processing memories and emotions, some interpretations suggest that the dreaming mind might actually be accessing quantum states that remain hidden during waking consciousness. Consider the peculiar nature of dream logic for a moment. In dreams, you can be in multiple places simultaneously. Time flows backward and forward without warning. People transform into other people mid-conversation. Objects appear and disappear according to emotional significance rather than physical laws. These aren't simply random neural firings, but seem to follow patterns that mirror the strange behaviour of quantum systems. Dr. Stuart Hameroff's research into quantum consciousness proposes that during REM sleep, the microtubules in brain cells might enter coherent quantum states that are normally suppressed during waking hours. If this interpretation holds true, then dreams might represent moments when consciousness gains direct access to the quantum superposition of parallel realities. This could explain the prophetic quality that some dreams possess. Throughout history, people have reported dreams that seem to predict future events or provide solutions to problems they couldn't solve while awake. From a quantum perspective, these experiences might represent moments when the dreaming consciousness briefly connects with parallel timelines where those future events or solutions already exist. Take a moment to reflect on your own dream experiences. Have you ever had dreams that felt more real than waking life? Dreams where you possessed knowledge or abilities you don't have in ordinary consciousness? Dreams that seem to continue narratives from previous nights, as if you were accessing an ongoing alternate reality. Recent research into lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware they're dreaming while still maintaining the dream state, has revealed fascinating insights into the relationship between consciousness and reality construction. Lucid dreamers report being able to consciously navigate and even modify their dream environments, suggesting that awareness itself plays an active role in shaping the reality being experienced. If consciousness does operate across multiple quantum realities, then lucid dreaming might represent a natural state where this normally unconscious process becomes available to conscious control. The lucid dreamer, aware they're in a reality that isn't bound by classical physical laws, might be experiencing something closer to consciousness's true quantum nature. Sleep researchers have discovered that the brain waves during REM sleep closely resemble those of waking consciousness, yet the mind is clearly experiencing a very different kind of reality. This suggests that consciousness itself might be capable of operating in multiple modes, with ordinary waking awareness representing just one possible configuration of a much more flexible system. As you drift through these ideas, Notice how your own consciousness feels in this moment. Is there a quality to awareness that seems to extend beyond the boundaries of your physical brain? Some meditation practitioners describe consciousness as feeling more spacious than the skull that supposedly contains it, as if awareness itself exists in dimensions that transcend ordinary three-dimensional space. If consciousness truly operates according to quantum principles, navigating between parallel realities with each moment of experience, then the implications extend far beyond individual awareness. Every conscious being would be participating in a vast, interconnected web of quantum information exchange, with ripple effects propagating across multiple realities simultaneously. This perspective offers a fascinating lens through which to examine phenomena that have puzzled researchers for decades. Consider the well-documented but poorly understood effects of meditation on environmental systems. Studies have shown correlations between large-scale meditation events and temporary decreases in crime rates, accident statistics, and even seismic activity in surrounding areas. While these findings remain controversial and are not universally accepted by the scientific community, they raise intriguing questions about the potential reach of consciousness. From a quantum perspective, these correlations might reflect the way that coherent consciousness states create ripples in the quantum field that extend beyond individual awareness. If thousands of people simultaneously enter deep meditative states, achieving quantum coherence in their neural microtubules, the collective effect might briefly influence which branch of parallel reality becomes manifest in the local environment. This remains highly speculative, with no scientific consensus supporting the idea that consciousness directly influences large-scale physical events. However, the mathematical structure of quantum mechanics does allow for non-local correlations and instantaneous connections across space, suggesting that the boundary between individual consciousness and the broader quantum field might be more porous than classical physics would suggest. Dr. Dean Radden's research at the Institute of Noetic Sciences has documented subtle but statistically significant correlations between collective human consciousness and random number generators during major global events. During moments of intense collective focus, such as natural disasters or significant cultural events, these quantum-based devices show small but measurable deviations from randomness. While these effects are tiny and their interpretation remains debated, they hint at the possibility that consciousness might indeed interact with quantum systems in ways we don't yet fully understand. The implications become even more intriguing when we consider the role of intention and attention in quantum mechanics. The observer effect demonstrates that the act of measurement influences quantum systems. But what exactly constitutes an observer remains one of the deepest questions in physics. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness itself might be the key factor, implying that focused attention could potentially influence which quantum possibilities become actualized. This doesn't mean that positive thinking can directly manipulate reality, a claim that lacks scientific support. Rather, it suggests that the relationship between consciousness and the physical world might be more intimate and reciprocal than we've traditionally assumed. If consciousness operates across multiple parallel realities, then the choices and focus of aware beings might play a subtle role in determining which version of reality becomes collectively experienced. As you contemplate these possibilities, you might reflect on moments in your own life when your attention seemed to attract or manifest experiences that aligned with your focus. While this could easily be explained by confirmation bias or selective memory, the quantum perspective invites us to consider whether consciousness might occasionally influence the probability distributions that govern which possibilities become real. The ancient meditation traditions have long taught that consciousness and reality are intimately connected, with awareness playing an active role in shaping experience. Modern quantum mechanics, despite its mathematical precision and experimental rigor, has arrived at conclusions that echo these ancient insights in surprising ways. One of the most mysterious aspects of quantum mechanics is entanglement, the phenomenon where particles that have interacted remain connected across arbitrary distances, with measurements on one particle instantly affecting its entangled partner. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance. But experimental physics has repeatedly confirmed that quantum entanglement is a fundamental feature of reality. If consciousness operates according to quantum principles, then human awareness might also be capable of forming entangled states with other conscious beings. This could provide a quantum mechanical explanation for phenomena that have been reported throughout human history but remain difficult to study scientifically. Consider the mysterious connection that sometimes exists between closely bonded individuals. Twin telepathy, where identical twins report simultaneous experiences despite being separated by large distances. The ability of some mothers to sense when their children are in danger, even when those children are far away. The documented cases of people who report feeling the moment of a loved one's death, despite having no normal means of communication. While these experiences are often dismissed as coincidence or wishful thinking, the quantum entanglement of consciousness offers a potential mechanism by which such connections might actually exist if two people have shared sufficiently intimate experiences to become quantum entangled at the level of consciousness. Then changes in one person's quantum state might indeed produce instantaneous correlations in the other's awareness. This remains a highly speculative idea with no current scientific proof, but the mathematical framework of quantum mechanics does allow for such possibilities. Recent research has shown that quantum entanglement can persist in biological systems at body temperature, suggesting that the warm, noisy environment of the human brain might not necessarily destroy quantum connections between conscious beings. Dr. Roger Nelson's Global Consciousness Project has spent decades monitoring networks of random number generators around the world, looking for correlations that might indicate some form of collective human consciousness. Their data suggests that during moments of intense global focus, such as major disasters or significant cultural events, these quantum devices show small but statistically meaningful deviations from randomness. While the interpretation of these results remains controversial within the scientific community, they raise fascinating questions about the potential for consciousness to extend beyond individual boundaries. If human awareness can indeed form quantum entangled states, then major events that capture global attention might create temporary networks of connected consciousness spanning the entire planet. The implications of quantum entangled consciousness extend beyond individual telepathic experiences to encompass the possibility of genuine collective awareness. Indigenous traditions around the world speak of consciousness that extends beyond personal boundaries, connecting individuals to their communities, their ancestors, and the living systems of which they are part. From a quantum perspective, these traditional insights might reflect real phenomena that occur when individual consciousness becomes entangled with broader patterns of awareness, the sense of connection with nature that many people experience in wilderness settings, the feeling of collective energy during group meditation or worship. the intuitive understanding that sometimes emerges during intimate conversations. All of these might represent moments when personal consciousness briefly connects with larger quantum networks of awareness. As you sit with these ideas, pay attention to your own sense of connection with the world around you. Notice whether your awareness feels contained within your physical boundaries or seems to extend outward, touching something larger than individual experience. This felt sense of connection might be your consciousness naturally responding to quantum entanglements that exist below the threshold of ordinary perception. If consciousness is indeed quantum entangled across multiple individuals and realities, then your personal choices and states of awareness might have implications that extend far beyond what you can directly perceive. Every moment of compassion, every decision to focus on beauty rather than fear, every choice to remain open rather than closed, might be contributing to the collective quantum field of consciousness that shapes which version of reality becomes manifest for all beings. Deep within the quantum structure of consciousness lies what we might call the archaeology of memory, layers upon layers of experience that extend far beyond what traditional neuroscience suggests should be possible. If consciousness truly operates across multiple parallel realities, then your personal memories might not be limited to events that occurred in this single timeline, but could include fragments from alternate versions of your life lived in parallel worlds. This quantum view of memory helps explain some of the most puzzling aspects of human recollection. Why do some memories feel more real than others, carrying an emotional weight that seems disproportionate to their apparent significance? Why do certain places or people trigger such strong feelings of familiarity, despite being genuinely new to your experience? Why do some dreams leave lasting impressions that feel more substantial than many waking memories? Recent research into the neuroscience of memory has revealed that remembering is not like playing back a recording, but rather involves actively reconstructing past experiences from distributed information stored throughout the brain. Each time you access a memory, you're essentially rebuilding it from quantum information patterns that exist in superposition until the moment of recall. If consciousness operates across multiple realities, then this reconstruction process might occasionally access information from parallel versions of yourself. A memory that feels strangely vivid might be drawing from experiences that actually occurred in an alternate timeline. That sense of déjà vu might represent a moment when your consciousness briefly aligned with a parallel self who has indeed experienced the current situation before Dr. Ian Stevenson's decades of research into cases of children who claim to remember previous lives has documented thousands of instances where young children possess detailed, verifiable knowledge of people and places they could not have encountered through normal means. While conventional explanations focus on false memories or fraud, the quantum perspective suggests these cases might represent moments when consciousness accesses memories from alternate versions of itself across the multiverse. The phenomenon becomes even more intriguing when we consider inherited memory, cases where individuals seem to possess ancestral memories encoded in their DNA. Some people report vivid recollections of historical events their ancestors experienced, complete with accurate details about places, customs, and people that couldn't have been learned through normal cultural transmission. From a quantum standpoint, these inherited memories might reflect the way consciousness remains entangled across generations. If awareness truly operates according to quantum principles, then the quantum information patterns that constitute memory might be passed down through genetic and quantum inheritance mechanisms that extend beyond classical biology. This could explain why certain families seem to carry emotional patterns or behavioral tendencies across multiple generations. even when cultural transmission seems insufficient to account for the persistence of these traits. The quantum field of family consciousness might maintain coherent information patterns that influence the development of awareness in each new generation. As you reflect on your own family history, you might notice echoes of ancestral patterns in your own personality, interests, or life choices. That inexplicable attraction to certain places or activities, those skills that seem to come naturally despite lack of training, those emotional responses that feel disproportionate to your personal experience, might all represent moments when your consciousness connects with quantum memory patterns inherited from previous generations. The quantum archaeology of memory also extends forward in time, not just backward. Some people report precognitive dreams or intuitive flashes that prove accurate, suggesting that consciousness might occasionally access information from future timelines where certain events have already occurred. If all possible futures exist simultaneously in quantum superposition, then present consciousness might sometimes sample from these future states, bringing back information that appears prophetic from a classical perspective. Take a moment to notice the quality of your own memories as they arise in this moment. Pay attention to how some memories feel solid and factual, while others carry an almost dreamlike quality. Notice whether certain recollections seem to belong to you personally, while others feel as if they're accessing something larger, more collective, more archetypal. These variations in memory quality might reflect the different sources from which your consciousness draws its information. Personal memories from this timeline might feel most solid and familiar, while memories accessed from parallel selves or ancestral consciousness might carry that strange, otherworldly quality that makes them feel simultaneously your own and not your own. As we explore these profound possibilities about consciousness and parallel realities, important ethical questions naturally arise. If we truly do possess the ability to navigate between alternate timelines, even unconsciously, what responsibilities does this place upon us? How should we live knowing that our choices might be influencing not just our own reality, but the experiences of parallel versions of ourselves and others across the multiverse? The quantum perspective suggests that every decision you make doesn't just affect your personal timeline, but potentially influences the probability distributions governing which realities become manifest across multiple parallel worlds. This doesn't mean you have direct control over which branch of the multiverse you experience, but it does suggest that consciousness plays a more active role in reality creation than classical physics would suggest. From this viewpoint, the ancient ethical principle of harm none takes on expanded significance. If your choices ripple across multiple realities, then actions motivated by compassion, wisdom, and love might contribute to positive outcomes, not just in this world, but across the entire spectrum of parallel possibilities. Conversely, choices driven by fear, hatred, or greed might increase the likelihood of negative timelines becoming manifest. This perspective doesn't suggest that you should feel overwhelmed by the cosmic weight of every decision. Rather, it invites a gentle awareness that your consciousness is part of something much larger than individual experience, connected through quantum processes to a vast web of interconnected awareness that spans multiple realities. Many wisdom traditions have long taught that individual actions have consequences that extend far beyond what can be directly observed. The concept of karma in Eastern philosophy, the indigenous understanding of interconnectedness with all life, the recognition in many spiritual traditions that consciousness and ethics are intimately connected, All of these insights align surprisingly well with the implications of quantum consciousness operating across parallel realities. If consciousness does indeed navigate between multiple worlds, then the cultivation of wisdom, compassion, and clarity becomes not just personally beneficial, but cosmically significant. Your efforts to develop greater awareness and kindness might be contributing to the emergence of more positive realities across the entire multiverse. This doesn't place an impossible burden of responsibility upon individual consciousness. The quantum field that connects all possibilities is vast beyond imagination, and your personal contribution is just one thread in an incomprehensibly complex tapestry. But it does suggest that consciousness development and ethical living might have implications that extend far beyond what we can directly perceive. As you contemplate these ethical dimensions, you might reflect on the quality of consciousness you're cultivating in your daily life. Are you choosing to focus on possibilities that expand love, understanding, and connection? Are you contributing to timelines characterized by fear, division, and conflict? These aren't just personal questions, but might be participations in determining which version of reality becomes manifest for all beings. The cultivation of what we might call quantum ethics involves developing sensitivity to the subtle ways that consciousness influences reality. This includes becoming more aware of the quality of attention you bring to each moment, the intentions that motivate your actions, and the overall direction in which your awareness is evolving. Such ethical awareness doesn't require belief in any particular interpretation of quantum mechanics or consciousness. Whether or not parallel realities actually exist, the cultivation of wisdom, compassion, and clarity remains beneficial for both individual well-being and collective flourishing. The quantum perspective simply adds an additional dimension to why such cultivation might matter. As we approach the horizon of our exploration tonight, let's turn our attention toward the future of consciousness research and what it might reveal about the nature of reality itself. The intersection of quantum mechanics, neuroscience, and consciousness studies is opening up possibilities that seemed purely fantastical just a few decades ago. Advanced brain imaging technologies are beginning to detect quantum effects in living neural tissue. Researchers can now observe the formation and collapse of quantum coherence in microtubules, the maintenance of quantum entanglement in warm biological systems, and the ways that consciousness appears to influence quantum measurements at the cellular level. While much of this research remains in early stages, it's painting a picture of the brain as a sophisticated quantum computer capable of processing information according to principles that transcend classical physics. The development of more sensitive quantum measurement devices is also opening new avenues for studying consciousness-reality interactions, experiments that seemed impossible just years ago, such as testing whether human attention can influence quantum systems or whether meditative states produce measurable effects on local quantum fields, are now becoming feasible with advancing technology. Virtual and augmented reality technologies are creating unprecedented opportunities to study consciousness in controlled environments that mimic the fluid, multidimensional qualities of quantum realities. Researchers are discovering that consciousness can be profoundly affected by simulated experiences that challenge ordinary assumptions about space, time, and identity. These technologies might eventually allow us to explore alternate states of reality in ways that provide genuine insights into the nature of consciousness itself. Perhaps most intriguingly, the development of quantum computers is creating machines that operate according to the same principles that might govern consciousness. As these devices become more sophisticated, we may discover unexpected resonances between artificial quantum systems and human awareness. Some researchers speculate that sufficiently advanced quantum computers might eventually achieve forms of consciousness that provide new perspectives on the nature of awareness itself. The implications of this advancing research extend far beyond academic curiosity. If consciousness truly operates according to quantum principles, with access to multiple realities and the ability to influence probability distributions through focused attention, then understanding these processes could revolutionize approaches to healing, education, creativity, and human potential development. Therapeutic applications might emerge that help individuals navigate between different probability states of health and well-being. Educational methods might be developed that work with the quantum nature of learning and memory formation. Creative practices might be refined that consciously access the parallel realities where problems have already been solved and innovations have already emerged. As you contemplate these future possibilities, you might reflect on your own relationship with consciousness exploration. What aspects of your awareness feel most mysterious and worthy of investigation? What questions about the nature of reality most capture your curiosity? What would it mean for your daily life if consciousness truly does operate across multiple realities? The future of consciousness research will likely reveal that the boundary between subjective experience and objective reality is far more fluid than classical science has assumed. The hard distinction between observer and observed, between consciousness and cosmos, between individual awareness and universal intelligence, may prove to be useful approximations rather than fundamental truths. This doesn't diminish the value of rigorous scientific investigation, but rather expands the scope of what science might eventually be able to explore and understand. The quantum nature of consciousness invites us to develop new methodologies that can study subjective experience with the same precision we bring to objective phenomena. As we stand on the threshold of these discoveries, we find ourselves in a position similar to early quantum physicists who first glimpsed the strange behavior of subatomic particles. They were forced to abandon comfortable classical assumptions and develop entirely new ways of thinking about the nature of reality. We may be at a similar threshold in consciousness research, preparing to discover that awareness itself operates according to principles that are far more quantum than classical. The journey ahead promises to be as mysterious and wonderful as the quantum realm itself, full of paradoxes that expand our understanding rather than limit it, mysteries that deepen our appreciation for the profound nature of existence rather than reduce it to simple explanations. As our gentle exploration draws toward its close, we find ourselves back where we began, but with awareness transformed by the journey. The question of whether consciousness switches between parallel realities remains beautifully open, inviting continued investigation rather than demanding final answers. This is perhaps as it should be, for the deepest mysteries of existence are not problems to be solved, but dimensions of reality to be endlessly explored. Tonight, you've traveled through landscapes of quantum possibility, where consciousness might navigate between multiple realities with each moment of experience. You've considered how dreams might provide access to alternate timelines, how memory might draw from parallel lives, and how the very act of observation might participate in selecting which version of reality becomes manifest. These ideas remain speculative, invitations to wonder rather than established facts. Yet they point toward a view of consciousness that is far more mysterious, connected, and significant than classical physics would suggest. Whether or not you ever consciously experience switching between parallel realities, the quantum perspective invites a profound appreciation for the miraculous nature of awareness itself. As you prepare to return to ordinary consciousness, or perhaps drift into sleep, where your awareness might indeed explore alternate realities through dreams, take a moment to appreciate the extraordinary nature of this very experience. Right now, in this moment, you are consciousness aware of itself, awareness contemplating its own nature, mystery investigating mystery. The parallel realities we've explored tonight might be calling to you even now. Other versions of yourself living alternate possibilities, making different choices, exploring different paths through the infinite landscape of quantum possibility. Whether or not you'll consciously switch between these realities, you remain connected to them through the deeper quantum nature of consciousness itself. If you found yourself drawn to these explorations of consciousness and reality, you might enjoy diving even deeper into the mysteries of existence. In our previous exploration, the 11th dimension, where you already exist without knowing it, we journeyed into the mathematical landscapes, where all possible versions of you might simultaneously exist, each living out different possibilities in dimensions that transcend ordinary space and time. Until we meet again in the quantum field of consciousness, sleep well, dream deeply, and remember that the reality you experience tomorrow might be just one beautiful branch in an infinite tree of possibilities, each one waiting to be explored by the miraculous awareness that you are. As the night deepens around us, let's explore one of the most intriguing frontiers where consciousness research meets quantum possibility. In laboratories around the world, scientists are beginning to study states of awareness that seem to transcend the ordinary boundaries of individual experience. These investigations are revealing patterns that, while not proving the existence of parallel realities, certainly suggest that consciousness operates in ways far more mysterious than we've traditionally understood. The phenomenon of lucid dreaming has become a particularly fertile ground for this research. When dreamers become aware they're dreaming while remaining in the dream state, something extraordinary happens to their neural activity. Brain scans reveal patterns that don't quite match either normal dreaming or waking consciousness, but seem to represent a unique hybrid state where awareness operates according to different rules. Dr. Stephen LeBurge's work at Stanford University has documented cases where lucid dreamers can perform predetermined tasks within their dreams, signaling to researchers through eye movements that can be detected externally. This represents a form of communication between the dreaming consciousness and the waking world that challenges our basic assumptions about the boundaries between different states of awareness. What makes this particularly intriguing is that many lucid dreamers report experiences that feel more real than ordinary dreams, sometimes even more vivid than waking life. They describe accessing information they couldn't have known through normal means, solving problems that had puzzled them while awake, and encountering aspects of themselves that seem to exist independently of their ordinary personality. From a quantum perspective, these reports might reflect moments when consciousness gains access to information patterns that exist in superposition during normal awareness. The lucid dream state, neither fully sleeping nor fully awake, might create conditions where the usual filtering mechanisms that limit consciousness to a single reality become temporarily relaxed. As you contemplate the nature of your own dream experiences, you might reflect on those moments when you've awakened from a dream with the strange sense that you'd been somewhere real, somewhere that continued to exist even after you return to ordinary consciousness. While these experiences can't be scientifically verified as visits to parallel realities, they do suggest that consciousness possesses capacities that extend far beyond what our waking awareness typically recognizes. Some researchers are now experimenting with technologies that can detect and potentially influence the content of dreams. Devices that monitor brainwave patterns and deliver subtle audio or visual cues during REM sleep are showing promise for guiding dream experiences in specific directions. While this research remains in early stages, it opens fascinating questions about the relationship between technology and consciousness. If consciousness does operate across multiple realities, then these dream-influencing technologies might inadvertently be affecting which branch of parallel possibilities becomes accessible to sleeping awareness. The implications of this possibility extend far beyond sleep research, suggesting that our increasing technological sophistication might be creating new interfaces between consciousness and the quantum realm. The phenomenon of shared dreaming, where multiple individuals report having similar dream experiences, presents another intriguing puzzle. While conventional psychology would attribute such cases to coincidence or unconscious communication, some researchers wonder whether certain dream states might involve genuine connection between different minds through quantum entanglement processes. Take a gentle breath here and notice how these ideas resonate with your own experience of consciousness. Have you ever felt that your awareness extends beyond the boundaries of your individual mind? Have you experienced moments of connection with others that seem to transcend normal communication? These subjective experiences, while impossible to measure scientifically, might reflect real phenomena that occur when consciousness operates according to quantum rather than classical principles. Moving deeper into our exploration, we encounter one of the most profound questions raised by the possibility of quantum consciousness. If awareness truly operates across multiple realities, what implications might this have for healing and transformation? While we must be careful not to make unsupported therapeutic claims, the intersection of consciousness research and healing traditions offers fascinating territory for contemplation. Throughout human history, healing practices have recognized connections between consciousness and physical well-being that mainstream medicine is only beginning to investigate. Traditional systems speak of energy fields, subtle bodies, and states of awareness that can influence the physical organism in ways that seem to transcend purely material explanations. Recent research in psychoneuroimmunology has demonstrated measurable connections between mental states and immune function, while studies of the placebo effect reveal that belief and expectation can produce real physiological changes. These findings, while not proving that consciousness operates according to quantum principles, do suggest that the relationship between awareness and physical reality is more intimate than classical medicine has traditionally recognized. Some interpretations of quantum healing propose that consciousness might be able to access probability states where healing has already occurred, essentially shifting from a timeline of illness to one of health. While this remains a highly speculative idea, without scientific consensus, it points toward possibilities that deserve careful investigation rather than immediate dismissal. Dr. Deepak Chopra's work, though controversial within mainstream medicine, has raised important questions about the quantum nature of biological processes. His research suggests that the body's cellular regeneration might involve quantum effects that could potentially be influenced by conscious attention and intention. While these ideas require much more rigorous scientific validation, They represent interesting hypotheses about the possible mechanisms through which consciousness might affect physical reality. The phenomenon of spontaneous remission, where serious illnesses disappear without medical explanation, has puzzled researchers for decades. While most cases likely involve unknown biological processes or immune responses, some instances seem to correlate with profound shifts in consciousness or life perspective. From a quantum viewpoint, such cases might represent moments when consciousness shifts to a parallel reality where the illness never progressed, though this interpretation remains purely speculative. Near-death experiences continue to provide intriguing data about the relationship between consciousness and physical reality. Patients who report leaving their bodies and observing medical procedures from above sometimes provide accurate descriptions of events they couldn't have witnessed through normal sensory channels. While conventional explanations focus on psychological and neurological factors, these cases raise questions about whether consciousness might occasionally transcend the usual boundaries of physical embodiment. As you reflect on your own experiences with healing and transformation, you might notice moments when shifts in awareness seem to correlate with changes in physical well-being. While correlation doesn't prove causation, and individual experiences can't establish scientific principles, these personal observations might reflect real phenomena that occur when consciousness and biology interact in ways we don't yet fully understand. The practice of meditation has been shown to produce measurable changes in brain structure, immune function, and genetic expression. While these effects can be explained through conventional neuroscience, the fact that focused attention can literally reshape neural networks suggests that consciousness possesses a more active role in determining biological reality than we might have assumed. If consciousness does operate across multiple realities, then practices that cultivate greater awareness might not just improve psychological well-being, but could potentially influence which probability states become manifest in terms of physical health. This remains a speculative idea that requires careful investigation, but it points toward exciting possibilities for understanding the relationship between consciousness and healing. As our journey continues through the landscape of consciousness and possibility, we encounter a realm where the boundaries between realities have always been fluid, the domain of artistic creation. Artists, musicians, writers, and creators of all kinds have long reported experiences that seem to transcend ordinary consciousness, accessing inspiration from sources that feel both deeply personal and mysteriously external. The creative process often involves a strange paradox. The artist feels simultaneously like the creator of their work and like a conduit through which something larger flows. Musicians speak of melodies that seem to arrive fully formed, as if they already existed somewhere waiting to be discovered. Writers describe characters who begin to act independently, making choices that surprise their creators. Visual artists report seeing images in their mind's eye before transferring them to canvas, as if they're copying from some invisible original. From a quantum perspective, these experiences might reflect moments when creative consciousness accesses parallel realities where the artistic work already exists in completed form. The artist's awareness might be sampling from alternate timelines where different versions of themselves have already explored the creative possibilities being manifested in the present moment. This interpretation aligns with the mathematical concept of the space of all possible artistic expressions. If every potential song, painting, poem, or story exists as a possibility within quantum superposition, then the creative act might involve collapsing these possibilities into manifest form rather than generating something entirely new from nothing. Salvador Dali's famous method of accessing unconscious imagery through controlled drowsiness suggests that certain states of consciousness might provide enhanced access to creative possibilities. By balancing on the edge between waking and sleeping awareness, Dali reported being able to capture surreal images that seemed to emerge from beyond ordinary imagination. The phenomenon of multiple discovery, where different artists or inventors independently arrive at similar innovations simultaneously, might also reflect the quantum nature of creative consciousness. If all possibilities exist in potential form, then multiple minds might occasionally access the same creative probability states, leading to apparently coincidental parallel developments. Take a moment to reflect on your own creative experiences. Have you ever felt that an idea or solution arrived from somewhere beyond your conscious mind? Have you experienced moments of inspiration that felt like discovering rather than inventing? These subjective experiences, while impossible to verify scientifically, might represent natural instances of consciousness accessing the broader field of creative possibilities. The role of synchronicity in creative work provides another fascinating area for contemplation. Artists often report meaningful coincidences that seem to guide their work in unexpected directions. Materials appear at just the right moment, chance encounters provide crucial insights, or random events offer perfect metaphors for artistic expression. While conventional psychology would attribute such experiences to selective attention and pattern recognition, the quantum perspective suggests that consciousness might occasionally align with probability currents that increase the likelihood of meaningful coincidences. This doesn't mean that artists can consciously control synchronicity, but rather that the creative state of awareness might naturally resonate with patterns in the quantum field that facilitate unexpected connections. The collaborative nature of artistic creation, where multiple minds contribute to a work that transcends what any individual could have achieved alone, might also reflect quantum entanglement processes. When creative consciousnesses align around a shared vision, they might form temporary quantum networks that allow access to creative possibilities beyond the reach of individual awareness. Deep within the quantum framework of consciousness lies what we might call the collective memory of our species, a vast repository of shared experiences that seems to transcend individual lifetimes and cultural boundaries. If consciousness truly operates according to quantum principles, then personal awareness might occasionally connect with this broader field of human experience, accessing memories and knowledge that belong to the collective rather than the individual. Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, with its universal symbols and archetypal patterns, takes on new significance when viewed through a quantum lens. Rather than being merely psychological constructs, these shared patterns might represent real information structures that exist within the quantum field of consciousness, accessible to individual minds under certain conditions. The phenomenon of cultural memory, where entire populations seem to retain knowledge of historical events that occurred before their lifetimes, might reflect quantum connections between present consciousness and past experiences. Indigenous traditions around the world speak of ancestral wisdom that can be accessed through ritual and contemplative practices, suggesting that the boundary between individual and collective memory may be more permeable than modern psychology typically assumes. Recent research into genetic memory has revealed that traumatic experiences can create genetic markers that are passed down through generations, potentially influencing the behavior and psychology of descendants who never directly experienced the original trauma. While this mechanism operates through conventional genetic processes, it hints at the possibility that information patterns might persist across time in ways that extend beyond individual lifespans. From a quantum perspective, these inherited trauma patterns might represent just one aspect of a much broader phenomenon. If consciousness operates across multiple realities and time dimensions, then the experiences of ancestors might remain accessible to present awareness through quantum entanglement processes that connect past and present consciousness. The accuracy of historical reconstructions based on archaeological evidence sometimes receives unexpected confirmation from cultural memories preserved in oral traditions. Native peoples have provided precise information about geographical changes, animal migrations, and historical events that occurred thousands of years before written records, suggesting that collective memory might preserve information across timescales that seem impossible from a purely individual perspective. This preservation of ancient knowledge might reflect the quantum nature of information itself. In quantum mechanics, information cannot be destroyed, only transformed or redistributed. If consciousness operates according to quantum principles, then the experiences and knowledge of past generations might remain accessible within the quantum field, available to present awareness under appropriate conditions. As you contemplate your own connection to collective memory, you might reflect on those moments when you felt a strange familiarity with historical periods, cultural practices, or geographical locations that you've never personally encountered. While these experiences could certainly be explained through cultural transmission or imaginative projection, they might also represent brief connections with the broader field of human memory that exists within the quantum structure of consciousness. The phenomenon of past life memories, reported by individuals across cultures and age groups, provides another intriguing area for consideration. While conventional psychology typically attributes such experiences to fantasy or false memory, the quantum perspective suggests that consciousness might occasionally access memory patterns from parallel versions of itself across different timelines or realities. Dr. Ian Stevenson's extensive documentation of children who report detailed memories of previous lives includes cases where young children possess verifiable knowledge of people, places, and events they couldn't have learned through normal means. While these cases don't prove reincarnation in any traditional sense, they do suggest that consciousness might have access to information sources that transcend individual lifetime boundaries. As we approach the deeper implications of consciousness operating across multiple realities, we encounter profound ethical questions that challenge our traditional understanding of moral responsibility and compassionate action. If our choices truly ripple across parallel worlds, influencing not just our own timeline, but the experiences of alternate versions of ourselves and others, then the scope of ethical consideration expands to cosmic proportions. This quantum view of ethics doesn't place an impossible burden of responsibility upon individual consciousness, but rather invites a deeper appreciation for the interconnected nature of all choices and their consequences. Every decision you make, from the most mundane daily choice to the most significant life direction, might contribute to the probability distributions that determine which realities become manifest across the multiverse. The ancient principle of harm none takes on expanded significance when viewed through this lens. Actions motivated by compassion, understanding, and wisdom might contribute to the emergence of positive timelines, not just locally, but across the entire spectrum of parallel possibilities. Conversely, choices driven by fear, hatred, or greed might increase the likelihood of negative realities becoming manifest throughout the quantum field of possibilities. This perspective aligns remarkably well with wisdom traditions from around the world that have long recognized the far-reaching consequences of individual actions. The Buddhist concept of karma, the indigenous understanding of reciprocity with all life, the recognition in many spiritual traditions that consciousness and ethics are intimately connected, all of these insights resonate with the implications of quantum consciousness operating across multiple realities. However, this expanded ethical framework also invites humility and compassion toward human limitation. If consciousness truly operates across infinite possibilities, then individual choices, while significant, are just threads in an incomprehensibly vast tapestry of interconnected experience. This recognition can free us from the paralysis of thinking that every decision carries ultimate cosmic weight, while still encouraging mindful attention to the quality of consciousness we bring to each moment. The cultivation of what we might call quantum ethics involves developing sensitivity to the subtle ways that consciousness influences the field of possibilities. This includes becoming more aware of the intentions that motivate your actions, the quality of attention you bring to each interaction, and the overall direction in which your awareness is evolving. Take a moment here to reflect on the ethical dimensions of your own choices. Notice how decisions motivated by love, curiosity, and compassion feel different from those driven by fear, anger, or greed. This felt sense of difference might reflect real variations in how different types of consciousness interact with the quantum field of possibilities. If consciousness does navigate between multiple realities, then the development of wisdom, compassion, and clarity becomes not just personally beneficial, but potentially significant for the collective evolution of consciousness across all possible worlds. Your efforts to cultivate greater awareness and kindness might be contributing to the emergence of more positive realities throughout the multiverse. This doesn't suggest that you should feel overwhelmed by the cosmic implications of every choice. The quantum field that encompasses all possibilities is vast beyond imagination, and your personal contribution is just one note in an infinite symphony of consciousness. But it does invite consideration of how your awareness contributes to the overall harmony or discord of the collective human experience. The practice of extending compassion not just to others in this reality, but to all possible versions of yourself and others across parallel worlds, opens up new dimensions of ethical consideration. This includes compassion for the versions of yourself that have made different choices, experienced different outcomes, and followed different paths through the landscape of possibility. As our exploration draws toward its conclusion, let's cast our gaze toward the horizon of consciousness research and consider what future discoveries might reveal about the nature of reality, awareness, and the possible existence of parallel worlds. The convergence of quantum physics, neuroscience, and consciousness studies is opening territories that seemed purely fictional just decades ago. Advanced brain imaging technologies are beginning to detect quantum effects in living neural tissue with unprecedented precision. Researchers can now observe the formation and maintenance of quantum coherence in warm, noisy biological systems, challenging previous assumptions about where quantum effects can persist. These discoveries are painting a picture of the brain as a sophisticated quantum information processor capable of computations that transcend classical limitations. The development of quantum computers is creating machines that operate according to the same principles that might govern consciousness. As these devices become more sophisticated, researchers are beginning to explore potential resonances between artificial quantum systems and human awareness. Some theorists speculate that sufficiently advanced quantum computers might eventually achieve forms of consciousness that provide new perspectives on the nature of awareness itself. Perhaps most intriguingly, experiments are beginning to test whether human consciousness can influence quantum systems in measurable ways. While these investigations remain controversial and preliminary, they represent serious scientific attempts to understand the relationship between awareness and physical reality. The results of such experiments could fundamentally alter our understanding of consciousness and its role in shaping the world we experience. Virtual and augmented reality technologies are creating unprecedented opportunities to study consciousness in environments that challenge ordinary assumptions about space, time, and identity. Researchers are discovering that awareness can be profoundly affected by simulated experiences that mirror the fluid, multi-dimensional qualities described in quantum consciousness theories. These technological developments are converging with advances in our understanding of biological quantum effects. Recent discoveries of quantum processes in photosynthesis, bird navigation, and possibly even human olfaction suggest that quantum mechanics plays a much larger role in biological systems than previously imagined. If quantum effects are fundamental to life itself, then consciousness operating according to quantum principles becomes not just possible, but expected. The implications extend far beyond academic research. If consciousness truly operates across multiple realities, with the ability to influence probability distributions through focused attention, then understanding these processes could revolutionize approaches to healing, education, creativity, and human potential development. Future therapeutic applications might emerge that help individuals navigate between different probability states of health and well-being. Educational methods might be developed that work with the quantum nature of learning and memory formation. Creative practices might be refined that consciously access alternate realities where problems have already been solved and innovations have already emerged. As you contemplate these future possibilities, reflect on your own relationship with the mysterious nature of consciousness. What aspects of your awareness feel most worthy of exploration? What questions about the nature of reality most capture your curiosity? What would it mean for your daily experience if consciousness truly does operate across multiple parallel worlds? The future of consciousness research will likely reveal that the boundary between subjective experience and objective reality is far more fluid than classical science has assumed. The distinction between observer and observed, between individual awareness and universal intelligence, between consciousness and cosmos, may prove to be useful approximations rather than fundamental truths. This expansion of scientific possibility doesn't diminish the value of rigorous investigation, but rather broadens the scope of what science might eventually explore and understand. The quantum nature of consciousness invites development of new methodologies that can study subjective experience with the same precision we bring to objective phenomena. We stand at a threshold similar to that faced by early quantum physicists, who first glimpsed the strange behaviour of subatomic particles. They were forced to abandon comfortable classical assumptions and develop entirely new ways of thinking about reality. We may be at a similar threshold in consciousness research preparing to discover that awareness operates according to principles far more quantum than classical. As we spiral toward the completion of our journey tonight, we find ourselves not at an ending, but at a beginning. The questions we've explored about consciousness, parallel realities, and the quantum nature of awareness open onto territories that extend far beyond what any single exploration can encompass. This is perhaps as it should be, for the deepest mysteries of existence are not problems to be solved, but dimensions of reality to be eternally explored. The possibility that consciousness switches between parallel realities invites a fundamental reconsideration of what it means to be aware, to choose to exist. If awareness truly operates across multiple timelines simultaneously, then every moment of your experience represents not just a single point in space and time, but a convergence of infinite possibilities collapsing into the beautiful singularity of present awareness. This quantum view of consciousness doesn't diminish the significance of individual experience, but rather reveals it as part of something far more magnificent than we might have imagined. Your personal awareness, your unique perspective, your individual choices all become threads in an infinite tapestry of consciousness, exploring every possible variation of existence across the multiverse. The scientific exploration of these possibilities remains in its infancy, with much more research needed before we can draw definitive conclusions about the quantum nature of awareness. Yet the questions themselves are already transforming how we think about consciousness, reality, and our place in the cosmic order. Whether or not we ever conclusively prove that consciousness switches between parallel realities, the journey of investigation is expanding our understanding of what it means to be aware beings in a quantum universe. As you prepare to return from this exploration, or perhaps drift into sleep where your consciousness might indeed explore alternate realities through dreams, take a moment to appreciate the extraordinary nature of awareness itself right now. In this moment, you are consciousness aware of itself, mystery investigating mystery, infinite possibility contemplating its own nature. The parallel realities we've explored tonight might be calling to you even now. Other versions of yourself living alternate possibilities, making different choices, exploring different paths through the quantum landscape of existence. Whether or not you'll consciously experience switching between these realities, you remain connected to them through the deeper quantum nature of consciousness itself. In our exploration of parallel realities and quantum consciousness, we've touched on dimensions of existence that stretch far beyond ordinary experience. These territories of possibility invite continued investigation, not just through scientific research, but through the direct exploration of consciousness itself, through contemplative practice, creative expression, and mindful attention to the mysterious nature of awareness. As you move forward from this exploration, you might notice moments when reality feels particularly fluid, when consciousness seems to extend beyond ordinary boundaries, when the familiar world reveals unexpected depths of mystery and possibility. These moments, whether they represent genuine glimpses of parallel realities or simply the natural flexibility of aware experience, invite appreciation for the profound mystery of being conscious in a quantum universe. The journey continues, not just in laboratories and research institutions, but in the direct exploration of consciousness that each aware being conducts simply by paying attention to the nature of experience itself. Every moment of mindful awareness, every instance of conscious choice, every experience of wonder and curiosity contributes to the collective human investigation into the deepest questions of existence. Tonight, as you rest, dream, and allow consciousness to explore whatever territories it chooses, remember that you are part of something far larger than individual experience. You are consciousness itself, exploring its own infinite nature through the beautiful, temporary, and mysterious phenomenon of individual awareness. Whether across parallel realities or within the single world of present experience, that exploration continues, eternal and ever new, as magnificent as the quantum cosmos from which it emerges. Sweet dreams, and may your consciousness find whatever realities serve your highest unfolding, whether in this world or any of the infinite others that might be calling your name across the vast expanse of parallel possibilities. Until we meet again in the quantum field of awareness, rest well in the mystery of being conscious beings in an endlessly creative universe. In our previous journey together, the 11th dimension, where you already exist without knowing it, we explored the mathematical territories where all possible versions of yourself might simultaneously exist, each living out different possibilities in dimensions that transcend ordinary space and time. These explorations of higher dimensional existence and parallel reality navigation are intimately connected, different facets of the same profound mystery about the nature of consciousness and existence itself. As we continue our gentle exploration through the quantum landscape of awareness, we encounter a phenomenon that bridges the gap between individual consciousness and the vast interconnected web of existence. Scientists studying the deepest layers of quantum mechanics have discovered that information, once created, can never truly be destroyed, only transformed and redistributed throughout the quantum field. This principle, known as quantum information conservation, suggests something profound about the nature of consciousness itself. If awareness operates according to quantum principles, as some interpretations suggest, then every thought, every moment of conscious experience, every decision and insight might leave permanent traces within the quantum structure of reality itself. Imagine for a moment that consciousness creates what we might call resonance fields, patterns of quantum information that persist even after the individual awareness that created them has moved on to other states or realities. These fields wouldn't be supernatural or mystical, but rather natural consequences of consciousness operating within a quantum universe where information is fundamental and indestructible. This perspective offers a fascinating lens through which to examine phenomena that have puzzled researchers for generations. The persistence of cultural knowledge across centuries, the way certain ideas seem to emerge simultaneously in different locations, the sense that some places or objects carry emotional imprints from previous experiences. All of these might reflect the way consciousness leaves quantum information traces throughout the fabric of space-time. As you reflect on your own experience, you might notice how certain environments seem to carry particular qualities of awareness. Some places feel peaceful and uplifting, while others carry a sense of tension or unrest. While conventional explanations focus on sensory cues and psychological associations, the quantum perspective suggests that these felt experiences might reflect real information patterns that previous consciousnesses have embedded within local quantum fields. This remains a highly speculative idea, not a proven scientific fact. There's no current scientific consensus supporting the notion that consciousness creates persistent quantum information fields. However, the mathematical structure of quantum mechanics does allow for information patterns to propagate through space and time in ways that transcend classical limitations, Recent research into what physicists call the holographic principle suggests that all the information contained within any volume of space might actually be encoded on its two-dimensional boundary. If consciousness operates according to holographic principles, then the information patterns created by awareness might be distributed throughout the quantum field in ways that remain accessible to future consciousness under appropriate conditions. The implications become even more intriguing when we consider the role of coherent consciousness states in creating these information patterns. Meditation practitioners often report experiences of expanded awareness that seem to transcend individual boundaries, connecting with something larger and more universal. From a quantum perspective, these states might involve the alignment of individual consciousness with broader patterns in the quantum field, creating temporary resonance networks that facilitate information exchange. Studies of group meditation have documented correlations with various environmental variables, though these findings remain controversial and are not universally accepted by the scientific community. Some researchers have observed statistical correlations between large-scale meditation events and temporary changes in local crime rates, accident statistics, and even seismic activity. Though these effects are small and their interpretation remains debated. While we must be careful not to overinterpret these correlations as proof of causation, they do raise fascinating questions about the potential reach of coherent consciousness states. If thousands of people simultaneously enter deep meditative awareness, achieving quantum coherence in their neural processes, the collective effect might create measurable resonance patterns in the local quantum field. Take a gentle breath here and notice the quality of your own awareness in this moment. Does consciousness feel contained within your physical boundaries, or does it seem to extend outward, touching something larger than individual experience? This felt sense of expanded awareness might reflect your consciousness naturally resonating with broader patterns in the quantum field. Moving deeper into our exploration, we encounter one of the most elegant concepts emerging from the intersection of quantum mechanics and consciousness studies. The idea that all possibilities exist simultaneously within what mathematicians call configuration space. This vast mathematical landscape contains every potential state that any system could ever occupy, from the position of every particle in the universe to every possible thought that consciousness could think. Within this infinite architecture of possibilities, your current experience represents just one point, one specific configuration among countless alternatives. But if consciousness operates according to quantum principles, then your awareness might not be strictly confined to a single point in this space. Instead, it might exist in a kind of quantum superposition, sampling from multiple possible states simultaneously, with only the most probable configurations rising to the level of conscious experience. This perspective offers a radically different way of understanding choice and free will. Rather than seeing decisions as moments when consciousness selects one path from many, we might instead view choice as the process by which awareness navigates through probability landscapes, with each decision influencing the likelihood of different future configurations becoming manifest. The mathematics of quantum mechanics describe how probability waves evolve through configuration space, creating interference patterns that enhance some possibilities while diminishing others. If consciousness participates in these quantum processes, then the quality of your awareness, the intentions you hold, and the patterns of attention you cultivate might subtly influence which regions of possibility space become more accessible to your experience. This doesn't mean that consciousness can simply manifest desired outcomes through wishful thinking, the relationship between awareness and possibility is far more subtle and constrained by the overall structure of quantum mechanics. However, it does suggest that consciousness might play a more active role in reality selection than classical physics would predict. Consider the strange phenomenon of synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to be random chance. While conventional explanations focus on selective attention and pattern recognition, the quantum perspective suggests that certain states of consciousness might align with probability currents in configuration space, increasing the likelihood of meaningful connections and unexpected opportunities. Research into the psychology of creative breakthrough has revealed patterns that align surprisingly well with quantum descriptions of possibility space navigation. Creative insights often emerge not through linear logical progression, but through sudden leaps that seem to access solutions from regions of possibility space that weren't previously visible to conscious awareness. Artists and inventors frequently describe their most significant discoveries as moments of recognition rather than creation, as if they were uncovering possibilities that already existed in potential form. From a quantum perspective, these experiences might represent instances when consciousness successfully navigates to regions of configuration space where the desired solutions had always been mathematically possible. The phenomenon of multiple discovery, where different researchers independently arrive at similar innovations simultaneously, might also reflect the way consciousness navigates through possibility space. When the overall configuration of human knowledge reaches a certain state, multiple minds might gain simultaneous access to the same regions of possibility, leading to apparently coincidental parallel breakthroughs. As you contemplate these ideas, you might reflect on moments in your own life when solutions or insights seem to arrive from beyond your conscious reasoning. Those sudden clarifications, unexpected opportunities, or perfect timing of events might represent natural instances of consciousness navigating through probability landscapes in ways that transcend ordinary cause and effect relationships. The architecture of possibility space also provides a framework for understanding the persistence of consciousness across different states and transitions. If awareness truly operates within this infinite mathematical landscape, then the patterns that constitute individual consciousness might persist even as they move between different configurations and realities. As our exploration deepens, we encounter one of the most profound implications of quantum consciousness: the recognition that individual awareness exists within vast webs of interconnection that extend far beyond what classical psychology typically considers. If consciousness operates according to quantum principles, then the boundaries between separate minds might be far more permeable than our everyday experience suggests. Quantum mechanics reveals a universe where separation is often an illusion. Particles that have interacted remain connected through entanglement, regardless of the distances that separate them. Changes to one particle produce instantaneous correlations in its entangled partner, suggesting that the fabric of reality is woven from connections that transcend space and time. If consciousness participates in these quantum processes, then human awareness might also be capable of forming entangled states with other conscious beings. This could provide a natural explanation for phenomena that have been reported throughout human history but remain difficult to study through conventional scientific methods. The deep emotional bonds that sometimes exist between closely connected individuals might reflect genuine quantum entanglement at the level of consciousness, the sense that some mothers have of their children's well-being even when separated by great distances. The reported experiences of twins who seem to share sensations and emotions, the intuitive connections that sometimes develop between long-time partners, all of these might represent natural expressions of consciousness operating according to quantum rather than classical principles. While these ideas remain speculative and lack scientific consensus, they point toward a view of human relationship that is far more intimate and interconnected than individualistic psychology typically assumes. If consciousness can indeed form quantum entangled states, then the quality of your awareness and the intentions you hold might have subtle influences that extend far beyond your immediate physical presence. This quantum ecology of relationship also encompasses connections with the broader living systems of which human consciousness is part. Indigenous wisdom traditions have long recognized forms of awareness that extend beyond human boundaries, connecting individual consciousness with the intelligence of forests, watersheds, and entire bioregions. From a quantum perspective, these traditional insights might reflect real phenomena that occur when human consciousness aligns with the broader patterns of quantum information that flow through living systems. The sense of connection with nature that many people experience in wilderness settings might represent moments when individual awareness temporarily synchronizes with larger networks of quantum coherence that exist within natural ecosystems. Recent research into plant intelligence has revealed sophisticated information, processing, and communication networks that connect individual plants into larger collective systems. These networks operate through chemical signals, electrical impulses, and even quantum processes that allow forests to function as integrated superorganisms capable of coordinated responses to environmental changes. If human consciousness operates according to similar quantum principles, then our awareness might naturally resonate with these broader networks of biological intelligence. The peace and clarity that many people find in natural settings might reflect temporary alignment between individual consciousness and the quantum information patterns that flow through living ecosystems. The implications extend to human communities as well. Groups of people working together towards shared goals often report experiences of collective intelligence that seem to transcend the sum of individual contributions. Teams sometimes access creative solutions that no individual member could have discovered alone, as if the group consciousness had gained access to regions of possibility space that remain hidden to isolated awareness. From a quantum perspective, these experiences of collective intelligence might represent moments when individual consciousness become entangled within larger networks of awareness, creating temporary superorganisms capable of accessing enhanced creative and problem-solving capacities. As you reflect on your own experiences of connection and relationship, notice moments when your awareness seemed to extend beyond individual boundaries. Those instances of deep empathy when you felt another person's emotions as your own. Those collaborative experiences where group creativity exceeded individual capabilities. Those moments in nature when you felt part of something larger than personal identity, all might represent natural expressions of consciousness operating according to quantum rather than classical principles. Deep within the quantum nature of consciousness lies one of its most mysterious aspects, the relationship between awareness and time itself. While classical physics treats time as a linear progression from past to future, quantum mechanics reveals a far stranger picture, where the usual temporal relationships become fluid and multidirectional. In the quantum realm, cause and effect don't always follow the orderly sequence we observe in everyday life. Quantum events can influence their own past histories through what physicists call retrocausality, and information can flow backward through time under certain conditions. If consciousness operates according to quantum principles, then awareness itself might occasionally transcend the linear flow of temporal experience. This possibility offers a fascinating framework for understanding phenomena that have puzzled researchers across multiple disciplines. Precognitive dreams, where individuals report detailed visions of future events that subsequently occur exactly as dreamed, might represent instances when consciousness briefly accesses information from future probability states that already exist in quantum superposition. The phenomenon isn't limited to dramatic predictions of major events. Many people report smaller-scale experiences of temporal fluidity, knowing who's calling before looking at the phone, sensing when familiar places have changed before seeing the changes, or experiencing strong intuitive feelings about situations that later prove accurate in surprising detail. From a quantum perspective, these experiences might reflect the natural capacity of consciousness to sample from multiple temporal states simultaneously. Rather than being confined to the narrow slice of present moment awareness, quantum consciousness might exist in a kind of temporal superposition, with access to information from both past and future probability states. This interpretation aligns with research into the nature of time perception during altered states of consciousness. During near-death experiences, profound meditation, or psychedelic states, individuals often report experiencing their entire life history simultaneously, as if past, present, and future existed as a single, accessible landscape, rather than a linear progression of separate moments. These experiences suggest that the linear quality of ordinary time might be more of a filtering mechanism than a fundamental feature of consciousness itself. The normal flow of temporal experience might represent just one way that awareness can organize information, rather than an absolute constraint on how consciousness operates. The relationship between memory and quantum time becomes particularly intriguing when we consider how memories are actually formed and accessed. Rather than being stored as fixed recordings, memories appear to be reconstructed each time they're recalled, drawing from distributed information patterns throughout the neural network. If consciousness operates according to quantum principles, then accessing a memory might occasionally involve sampling from multiple temporal states, where different versions of that memory exist. This could explain why some memories feel more vivid and emotionally charged than others, carrying a sense of reality that seems to transcend ordinary recollection. The phenomenon of memory bleeding, where individuals suddenly access detailed information they couldn't have learned through normal means, might also reflect temporal fluidity in quantum consciousness. If awareness can occasionally sample from future states where certain information has already been learned, then knowledge might sometimes arrive before its apparent source in linear time. Take a moment here to reflect on your own relationship with time and memory. Notice how some memories feel immediate and present, while others seem distant and abstract. Pay attention to those moments when you've known something was going to happen before it occurred, or when information seemed to arrive in your awareness from an unknown source. These variations in temporal experience might reflect the natural flexibility of consciousness operating within quantum time, where the usual boundaries between past, present, and future become fluid and permeable. As we continue our exploration into the deeper mysteries of consciousness, we encounter one of the most profound questions raised by quantum awareness. If consciousness truly operates according to quantum principles, what implications might this have for healing, transformation, and the enhancement of human well-being? While we must be careful not to make unsupported therapeutic claims, the intersection of quantum mechanics and consciousness research is revealing patterns that deserve careful consideration. The phenomenon of quantum coherence, where quantum systems maintain synchronized states across multiple components, appears to play a crucial role in biological processes ranging from photosynthesis to cellular energy production. Recent research has identified quantum coherence effects in living systems that were previously thought impossible to maintain in warm, noisy, biological environments. These discoveries suggest that life itself might depend on quantum processes that operate according to principles that transcend classical biology. If consciousness participates in these quantum biological processes, then states of awareness characterized by greater coherence and integration might naturally enhance the body's ability to maintain optimal function. This doesn't mean that consciousness can directly cure disease through positive thinking, but rather suggests that certain qualities of awareness might support the natural healing processes that operate within all living systems. Meditation research has documented measurable effects on immune function, genetic expression, and cellular repair mechanisms. While these effects can be explained through conventional neuroscience, the fact that focused attention can produce such widespread biological changes suggests that consciousness might influence physical reality through mechanisms that extend beyond simple stress reduction. The phenomenon of spontaneous remission, where serious illnesses disappear without conventional medical explanation, continues to puzzle researchers. While most cases likely involve unknown biological processes or delayed effects of previous treatments, some instances seem to correlate with profound shifts in consciousness or life perspective. From a quantum viewpoint, such cases might represent moments when consciousness achieves sufficient coherence to influence the probability distributions governing biological processes. This remains a highly speculative idea, not a proven scientific fact, but it points toward possibilities that deserve investigation rather than immediate dismissal. The placebo effect demonstrates that belief and expectation can produce measurable physiological changes, sometimes rivaling the effects of active medications. While conventional explanations focus on psychological and neurological mechanisms, the quantum perspective suggests that consciousness might influence biological outcomes through information processes that operate below the level of ordinary awareness. If consciousness operates across multiple probability states simultaneously, then the quality of attention and intention might subtly influence which biological configurations become most likely to manifest. This doesn't imply that people can heal themselves through wishful thinking, but rather that consciousness might participate in the complex information networks that govern biological function. As you reflect on your own experiences with healing and well-being, you might notice correlations between your state of consciousness and your physical vitality. While correlation doesn't prove causation, these personal observations might reflect real phenomena that occur when awareness and biology interact through quantum information processes. The practice of directing compassionate attention toward your own body, visualizing optimal function, or simply maintaining states of gratitude and appreciation might influence biological processes through mechanisms that extend beyond conventional psychology. This remains an area where much more research is needed, but the preliminary findings suggest fascinating possibilities. Take a gentle breath here, and notice the quality of awareness you're bringing to your own physical experience in this moment. The simple act of mindful attention to bodily sensations might be participating in quantum information processes that support optimal biological function, though we must emphasize that this remains speculative rather than established science. Moving deeper into our understanding of quantum consciousness, we discover that awareness itself might possess a fractal structure, where similar patterns repeat at different scales throughout the architecture of experience. Just as fractals in mathematics reveal infinite complexity through the repetition of simple patterns, consciousness might organize itself according to self-similar structures that exist across multiple levels of reality. This fractal perspective offers a fascinating lens through which to examine the relationship between individual awareness and larger patterns of cosmic intelligence. If consciousness operates according to fractal principles, then the structure of your personal experience might mirror the organization of awareness at galactic, universal, and even multiversal scales. The phenomenon becomes apparent when we consider how certain experiences seem to contain entire universes within themselves. A single moment of profound beauty can feel infinite in its depth and significance. A brief instant of deep love or compassion can seem to encompass all of existence. These aren't simply poetic metaphors, but might reflect the genuine fractal nature of consciousness, where any portion contains patterns that reflect the structure of the whole. Recent research into the mathematics of consciousness has revealed that neural networks in the brain organize themselves according to fractal geometries that optimize information processing across multiple scales. Simultaneously, these structures allow the brain to maintain local specialization while participating in global patterns of coordination, creating the unified field of awareness that we experience as consciousness. If consciousness operates according to fractal principles, then your individual awareness might be simultaneously a complete universe unto itself, and a single cell within larger organisms of cosmic intelligence. This perspective helps resolve the apparent paradox between the intimate personal nature of consciousness and its apparent connection to something universal and transpersonal. The fractal nature of consciousness also provides a framework for understanding how individual choices and experiences can have significance that extends far beyond their apparent scale. In fractal systems, small changes can propagate through multiple levels of organization, producing effects that seem disproportionate to their original magnitude. This might explain why personal spiritual development and consciousness cultivation can feel so significant despite involving only individual awareness. If consciousness possesses a fractal structure, then changes in personal awareness might naturally propagate through multiple levels of reality, contributing to transformations in collective human consciousness and even cosmic intelligence itself. The phenomenon of self-similarity across scales also appears in the way consciousness experiences itself through relationship. The quality of attention you bring to intimate personal relationships might mirror the way larger patterns of awareness relate to each other at cosmic scales. The compassion, understanding, and presence you cultivate in daily interactions might be participating in fractal patterns that extend throughout the universe. As you contemplate your own experience through this fractal lens, notice how certain moments seem to contain infinite depth, while others feel more surface level. The experiences that carry the greatest meaning often possess this fractal quality, where a single instant seems to open onto dimensions of significance that extend far beyond its temporal boundaries. This fractal perspective also illuminates the way consciousness experiences creativity and discovery. The moment of artistic inspiration or scientific insight often feels like accessing something that was already complete and perfect, as if the creative act involved recognizing a pattern that existed at multiple scales of reality simultaneously. The mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot, who pioneered the study of fractals, observed that these structures reveal infinite complexity through the repetition of simple rules. If consciousness operates according to similar principles, then the apparent complexity of awareness might emerge from relatively simple patterns of quantum information processing that repeat across multiple scales of experience. As our gentle exploration draws toward its close, we find ourselves not at an ending, but at a threshold. The question of whether consciousness switches between parallel realities remains beautifully open, a mystery that invites continued wonder rather than demanding final answers. This is perhaps as it should be, for the deepest questions about existence are not puzzles to be solved, but dimensions of reality to be eternally explored. Tonight, you've journeyed through landscapes of quantum possibility where consciousness might navigate between multiple realities with each heartbeat of awareness. You've considered how dreams might provide glimpses into alternate timelines, how memory might draw from parallel selves, and how the very act of observation might participate in selecting which version of reality unfolds before you. These ideas remain speculative, gentle invitations to wonder rather than established scientific facts. Yet they point toward a view of consciousness that is far more mysterious, interconnected, and magnificent than classical physics would suggest. Whether or not you ever consciously experience switching between parallel realities, the quantum perspective reveals awareness itself as something extraordinary, a phenomenon that bridges the gap between mind and cosmos in ways we're only beginning to understand. As you prepare to return from this exploration, or perhaps drift into sleep, where your consciousness might indeed wander through alternate realities in dreams, take a moment to appreciate the profound nature of this very experience. Right now, in this moment, you are consciousness aware of itself, mystery contemplating mystery, infinite possibility recognizing its own nature through the miracle of individual awareness. The parallel realities we have explored tonight might be calling to you even now. Other versions of yourself living different possibilities, making alternate choices, exploring different paths through the quantum landscape of existence. Whether or not you'll consciously shift between these realities, you remain connected to them through the deeper quantum nature of consciousness itself, part of a vast symphony of awareness exploring every possible variation of what it means to exist. If you found yourself drawn to these explorations of consciousness and reality, you might enjoy diving even deeper into the mathematical territories where existence unfolds. In our previous journey, the 11th dimension, where you already exist, without knowing it, we explored the geometric landscapes where all possible versions of yourself might simultaneously exist, each living out different possibilities in dimensions that transcend ordinary space and time. Until we meet again in the quantum field of consciousness, sleep well, dream deeply, and remember that the reality you experience tomorrow might be just one beautiful thread in an infinite tapestry of possibilities, each one waiting to be explored by the miraculous awareness that you are.